Welcome to the show, and tonight we have a conversation, a very interesting one, with the Deputy Vice President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Professor Arthur Mutambara, has been given a lecture in Ghana, and the topic for the lecture is quite interesting. As you may remember, we have interviewed him on this show before during the Brand Ghana inauguration here in Accra 2 years or so ago. He spoke on building a peaceful, democratic, non-partisan, and prosperous African state, understanding where African leaders have gotten it wrong. And my particular interest is in the second part, understanding where African leaders have gotten it wrong. His Excellency has joined me in the studio to explain the lecture and tell us a bit more about what he has found out in his research. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
How is Zimbabwe doing?
We're doing well. We're slowly progressing, carrying out reforms. And very soon we're going to have a referendum on our constitution. And
you have a new constitution?
We're working on that. And then after the referendum, we're going to go for our elections.
Elections? Is this year?
Most likely next year, March.
March next year, there will be elections?
Most likely, yes.
Would you be competing for any position?
Definitely, definitely. You know,
which one?
Well, our party will contest in the elections, parliamentary elections, and also for the presidents of the country. Your
party is which one? ZANU-PF?
No, the Movement for Democratic Change.
Oh, the MDC?
There are quite a number of them.
So the MDC has both Prime Minister and Deputy Prime Minister?
Yes.
I see. Okay. That's 2 against 1.
Not really.
Okay, after the break, I have a conversation with the Deputy Vice President of Zimbabwe. Welcome back to the show, and thank you, Excellency, for staying. Many people like the kinds of things you say as a modern African leader, and you're contrasted with the African leaders that took over from the colonialists or the military dictators, and you come across as a refreshingly different quantity when it comes to African leadership. Do you get, the people in Zimbabwe feel the same about you, and do you speak often to the older leaders, Jacob Zuma and others, within the Southern African region?
You know, what we're emphasizing is the need for introspection, the need for reflections, the need to understand where we've gone wrong so that we can have better answers. The old leaders you mentioned are very important because we're building on their foundation. There will be no Mutambara without Mandela, without Mugabe, without Zuma. So we're not rubbishing the old leaders. We're emphasizing the need to take this struggle to the next stage. The ICT revolution being the platform, entrepreneurship, creativity, innovation. The modern leader who is on Facebook, who is tweeting, because we can't be globally competitive unless we're using modern tools. And so we are building on the foundation of the older generation, but creating a platform where the new young leader can make a difference. But more importantly, in this lecture, I was emphasizing areas where we've gotten it wrong, where we can learn and become better leaders.
Where have we gotten it wrong?
We have not understood the need and the importance of peace. Mali, Sudan, Guinea-Bissau. We have not understood the need for a national interest-driven platform, for a shared national vision. We have not understood the importance of non-partisanship. We can't have a country driven by a party. The ANC, for example, in South Africa, should not be defining the future of South Africa. The future of South Africa must be driven by all political parties in South Africa, DA, IFP, and the ANC.
They are too small.
This is the problem. Tomorrow they'll be big, and they'll reverse the gains of the ANC.
It'll take a long time in South Africa to have...
But you're missing the point. You could, if you look at Zambia, they will say the same thing about UNIP. Oh, they're too small. But MMD took over from UNIP. Yeah? In Malawi, Banda, oh, he's too big, but he was defeated by the small guys. In Zimbabwe, Mugabe could be defeated. Yeah? So what we're saying is let's not be caught up in investing in a political party. Let us invest in the country. Let us have a platform that says, regardless of whoever wins, the country moves forward. That's the notion of the non-partisanship or inclusive economics, inclusive politics. The Africans have not understood the importance of prosperity. What use is democracy if people are hungry? What use is freedom if there's no economic freedom? So we are saying yes to political freedom, yes to political rights, What about the civil rights, economic rights, job security? A prosperous state is a requirement if Africa can say we've arrived. So we must understand the importance of peace. We must understand the importance of democracy so our people have buy-in and ownership. We must understand a non-partisan platform, meaning we must be above parties. In Ghana, for example, it should not matter.
I'll come to the non-partisan. That's a big one for us. And
so anyway, so my argument is the adjectives I use. Peace, democracy, non-partisanship, prosperity, all those issues, we need to rethink them.
Let's start with prosperity. What does it mean, prosperity? Is Nigeria prosperous?
No, it's not. The majority of the people are not prosperous. The quality of life of our people.
Is Brazil prosperous?
Getting there, but still there are pockets of poverty. What we're saying...
India prosperous?
Yes, they're getting there. The pockets of poverty. Emphasis is on per capita income.
Is Greece prosperous?
Emphasis, don't ask pedantic questions. Let me explain to you.
Okay.
We are emphasizing per capita income. We're emphasizing the Gini coefficient, which is the measure between the rich and the poor. We're emphasizing the global happiness index. We're emphasizing the planet happiness index, moving from traditional things like GDP.
Is that not highfalutin? I mean, you're talking World Bank, IMF language.
I'm talking...
What does it care to the person in Bulawayo? What's Gini coefficient?
It means...
For you and I, it means something, but the guy in Bulawayo,
the guy in Bulawayo, if we address the issue of the disparity between the rich and the poor, we'll fix the life of the men in Bulawayo. If we talk GDP, we will not address these concerns. If we talk per capita income, we'll address the issue of the woman in Soweto in the poverty. What we're saying, these measurements must be understood and be used by African leaders to drive their economies.
What is Gini coefficient? Is it bread and butter?
Yes, it is bread and butter because it measures the difference between the richest and the poor. It measures, and then it will condemn South Africa. It will condemn Nigeria.
And Brazil.
Definitely, yes. But so we are saying Switzerland, Sweden, there's some parity there. Botswana is trying. Ghana is trying. But unless we understand that we must measure the gap between the poor and the rich and closing that gap, then you might say South Africa is very successful because you're using the wrong measures.
Is that not a socialist argument?
It's an economic
Breaching the gap between the rich and the poor. Should there not be a base that everybody can get to? But if somebody can get to the sky and beyond, let him go. If Bill Gates can get there, let him go. If Steve Jobs can get there, let him go.
I thought we are emphasizing the need to make sure there are equal opportunities, not equal outcomes. The outcome depends on talent. The outcome depends on hard work. The outcome depends on access to education, the access to a job, the access to finance, the access to markets creates an environment of equal opportunities, not equality of outcomes. So a good society will produce a Bill Gates. A good society will produce a Steve Jobs. We are not against that. But because actually they make my point. Steve Jobs was an adopted child. Steve Jobs was a university liberal arts dropout. But he became a baller and a short caller because he had a good brain. So a society that allows a creative person to be a billionaire, a society that allows an adopted child to create a revolution in 5 industries and create $100 billion economy. Company. Yeah. So
there's a big debate in Ghana right now about education, and I'd like to find out what you think, not about the debate, but what are your own views about education and its access? Should it be paid for by the government or it should be paid for by the individuals at the secondary level?
All of the above. The state have a role to help the poorest of the poor. The state has a role to provide a safety net. The private sector has a role to provide choice, to provide good schools, to provide competition. So yes to the private sector in education, yes to the state in education, yes to a partnership between the state and the private sector.
Should the parent of the child have a burden, at least a 40% burden, to see the child through secondary
I'm not
school?
sure about the percentage, but yes, they must have a burden. They must invest in their children.
Should it be tuition?
We can debate the level of the burden, but the parents must have a say, they must have a contribution, the state must come in for the poorest of the poor. Remember, education is an equalizer. Education can be used to close gaps between between the rich and the poor. And there are people who require a hand up from the government, from the state. And once they got in that hand up, they can then help themselves and help others. But let me put a caveat there. Education must not be understood as an end in itself. It must be a means to an end. Education to do what? Education for what? And also, let us not confuse book education and education. Skills and school education. Because we are now in a society that says, show me what you can do. Don't tell me you've got an MBA from Harvard. What can you do? Don't tell me I'm a BSc in physics. Show me what you can do. And also skills are dying now with technology. So you must make sure that you can actually produce results. Show me. And secondly, you don't need a degree to be productive. If you are the smartest student at the University of Ghana and you have a brilliant idea, you must be allowed to drop out and form a company that employs all the graduates. That's your Bill Gates, studying physics at Harvard, had a good idea, dropped out, formed Microsoft. Now he gives more money to Harvard than all Harvard graduates put together. Steve Jobs drops out of a liberal arts college, forms the Apple, right? And now he's caused a revolution in music, a revolution in animation, a revolution in cell phone technology, a revolution in computers, Mac and iPad, a revolution in education because now you need an iPad and all your books can have an iPad. This is a university dropout. I'm emphasizing that yes to school, but let us be flexible. If a smart student who's #1 in engineering, #1 in law, has a good idea, the professors must allow him or her to drop out and form a multi-billion-dollar company. Flexibility is required in our educational system. Education must be a means to an end, not an end in itself.
Okay, I think that's a rational idea. This is very controversial points that you're making. I hope you're enjoying the interview with Mutambara, and there's more to come, so stay tuned. Prof, just one more on education. You talked about helping the poor, those who cannot afford, and the state lifting them up. Sure. If that group of people constitutes 60% of the population, how do we go about that?
Then you got to just invest. Here's Zimbabwe as an example. One strength of the post-independence government in 1980, they put lots of money into education. Mugabe, to his credit, created a revolution in education in Zimbabwe by investing in primary schools, investing in secondary schools, investing in universities. That's why today Zimbabwe is a high literacy level. That's why today Zimbabwe has the best human capital in Africa, because the government of 1980 invested directly into education. South Africa has not done that. It's 17 years now for South Africa, and they have not done as much as Zimbabwe did in education. Education is a long-term game. When you invest in education, it takes 20 years to see the fruits. And I'm not criticizing South Africans, I'm simply saying I would have wanted them to do more in education as much as we did in Zimbabwe. Now, so if 60% of the people are affected, then the country has a duty and obligation to educate its people, because that will affect the production of human capital, that will affect manufacturing and industry. Universities, high schools, colleges are breeders of human capital. Without human capital, there's no economy.
You talked about non-partisanship. That's a big question, and in Ghana, it's something that we're dealing with right now. We have two big political parties, and there are worries that if something is not done, the extent of the bipartisanship will probably ruin our democratic structure. What is your point of advice to move away from bipartisanship? Because we have to go to an election, we have to fight and compete in ideas, we have to have MPP and have NDC so that we can sharpen each other. So there's nothing really wrong with that. Where does it get wrong?
It depends on what you're fighting over. It depends on what the debate is about. The starting point is that there must be things in Ghana that you don't challenge, that you share, that are above competition, the non-competitive issues, the name of the country.
Yes, we don't.
The flag of the country.
We don't compete.
The national anthem.
No, it's fine.
The national constitution.
Yes, it's
national
fine.
Vision.
We don't have that
national
yet.
Brand.
No, not yet.
National interest.
I don't know that one.
Foreign policy objectives. So what we want to do in Ghana is to craft a framework of things we don't challenge. NDC, NPP must have an understanding and agreement on the vision, an understanding and agreement on the national brand, an understanding and agreement on the national interest, an understanding and agreement on the foreign policy objectives. Once we have clarity on those issues, it doesn't matter who wins in the elections. Why? Because the debate will be, I'm a better defender of the Constitution than you. I can deliver the national vision better than you. I'm a better protector of the Ghanaian brand than you are. I am a better protector of the Ghanaian national interest than you. Those are good debates. Because you're not,
let me try and see if I understand what you're saying.
Because you're not questioning.
Okay, let me try and see.
You're not questioning the destination. So let us agree on the destination. We are traveling from Accra to Kumasi. Let's have that conversation. Once we agree
that we are going to Kumasi, that's where we are going.
Then the debate
we can go different ways together.
Then the argument is, I can move faster than you. I'm going to use a bicycle. It's faster than your lorry. I'm going to use a tractor. I'm going to fly.
Or I will go through Cape Coast, you go through Koforidua.
Well,
whichever way.
But the destination is... Now, when you have an agreement on the destination, you find that your conversations are going to be very civil. Your differences are going to be very manageable. So there'll be no need for violence. There'll be no need for acrimony. And it will be inconsequential who wins that election. Let's go to America.
If it will be inconsequential who wins that election, where is the competition?
The competition is on who is the better deliverer. Let's go to America.
Yeah, but let's stay on Ghana for the meantime. Corruption is an issue in Ghana. And both parties say that corruption is an issue. And one says that you are more corrupt than I am. So we are barely there, aren't we? Employment is an issue in Ghana. It's going to be a big issue in this election. Youth employment. And this one says, I can do it better than you. So it looks like we are there, isn't it? Are we not there?
Those are very small.
Employment is small?
This is where you miss it. This is why you must listen, as Ghana, to Zimbabwe, to the Zimbabwean Deputy Prime Minister.
Ghana must listen to Zimbabwe. That's nice.
Of course you must.
That's nice. I like that.
When you say national vision, that is loaded. That when you say national vision, it will speak to all these things, corruption, employment, but it's a bigger notion. It's what we call the grand norms. The national vision, we have a political vision, have a social vision, an economic vision. Don't be lazy. Spend some time, do some workshops, do a national caucus, and establish a 30-year vision, not 5 years, not 10, 30-year vision. Where do we want Ghana to be in 30 years' time? And I'm telling you, when you do the conversation, all these small matters you raise will be lined up. And put it aside and have buy-in from CPP, NPP, NDC. Then you say, but what are we known for? What is our identity around these 6 things? Investment, trade, tourism, people, governance, culture. Can we agree as Ghanaians how we want to be known on those 6 things? Do a massive workshop. 3-4 months talking about this. Taking
people from all sides of the political.
Exactly. And then once we agree on the identity, we call that the Ghanaian brand. I'm very happy that you've done a good job on the Constitution. You know, you take it for granted. We don't have an agreement.
Yeah, we do.
Zimbabweans are busy crafting a national constitution. You are one step ahead of us because we have.
It's not one, Your Excellency. It's not a couple. 20.
So what I'm saying is, you've done a good job. You got a national constitution there.
Yes.
Get your
and we all agree on it.
Yeah, and that's excellent. Don't assume that other countries are there. They are not. We are not in Zimbabwe. So you have a national constitution, you have a national vision, national brand. Those 3 will be enough to make sure that then once you agree on those, I'm telling you, you say, NPP gets into power, no problem, same destination. NDC gets into power, no problem, same destination. The problem is you're having fundamental debates and discussions which must be resolved in a national consensus. When I say America, I say when they say American dream, it's not a democratic dream. It's not a Republican dream, it's an American dream. Their debate is, I can deliver the American dream to more Americans than you.
The Republican dream, but you know.
No, but they argue.
Because it's a dream of ownership. And,
yeah, but you know, and then so we want African countries
to have that as well.
Yeah. So I am saying this because you're going towards the elections. If we get a standing on the Ghanaian national interest, and we all agree on it, I'm telling you, you would not care who wins that election. Oh, of course you care, because then
yes,
you want to have the manager.
To care to be passionate about it,
but you should not be killing each other or attacking each other. You must have democratic discourse, civil conversations, because at the end of the day, the destination won't change. Now, the problem is that because there's no agreement on the destination, one party is saying, we are traveling from Accra to Kumasi. They do that for 8 years. And they're halfway to Kumasi. Another party gets into power and they say, no. These guys were blind, deaf, and dumb. The destination is Cape Coast. And they take the country away from Kumasi, back to Accra, towards Cape Coast. They do that for 8 years. And another bunch of players come and say, no. The direction was actually Takarodi. We don't want that. Because remember, opportunity cost. The Japanese used to have 100-year plans. Can you imagine a century? They put a plan for a century.
But you see, the Japanese that you talk about, that didn't stop them from flying chairs at each other in Parliament. We don't do that in Parliament. We've never done that before.
But they're doing a bit better than the economic.
Yeah, but they fly the chairs in Parliament. There's a lot of hate speech in Japan.
I know.
Yeah, so which one do you select?
By and large, these guys went through the Second World War.
No, I'm talking recently.
Yeah,
I know about the second one. I'm talking very recently.
What happened after the Second
Japan
World
is a very turbulent political sort of ground.
Turbulent, but economically stable.
Yes,
and
they
then
have more money than us.
The Germans went through a Second World War. Look, I'm not glorifying the Japanese or the Europeans.
But I think your point is clear, the vision.
I want to emphasize us looking at ourselves and thinking about how we can do better, learning from each other, and driving our countries. But more importantly, Ghanaians must realize that Ghana is too small to be consequential. Okay?
We don't accept that.
Yeah, you better accept that.
Why?
Because ECOWAS is the story.
We're producing more than 40% of the world's gold. That's small?
Yeah. But you know,
we're the second largest producer of cocoa. Is that small?
I just showed you that you control 0.08% of all GDP. That's very small.
Yeah, that may be small.
Why is it like that?
But we have that because we're not controlling the gold enough.
Now we're talking.
So we have to start controlling the gold, and then we'll be significant. So Ghana is not small.
You've been trying it for 55 years. What's your problem?
Yeah, we are not thinking well, so we have to do that.
So you must listen to the argument that says, number one, fix your problems as a country. Number two, think ECOWAS, think Africa. Then you're going to be contributing 40% of all GDP.
What does it mean to think ECOWAS?
Think ECOWAS means you realize that we won't make it as Ghana, we'll make it as the integrated economy of ECOWAS. We won't make it as Ghana, we're going to make it as the African continent of 1 billion Africans. Scale is important under globalization. So the gold you talk about, can you imagine the gold you talk for the 40% gold you're talking about? You know the DRC has so much wealth that all the people of the world can live in the DRC and have a quality of life better than they're having now. So can you imagine your 40% of the gold, and I have to check that number, 40% of world gold plus DRC, plus can you imagine? If we combine your platinum, your gold, our platinum,
and South Africa's
our
gold
diamonds,
too.
So we're going to contribute 80% of our GDP. Isn't that more attractive?
It is, but why have we not been able to achieve it?
Because we don't listen to Nkrumah. Huh? Nkrumah was a
Nkrumah, our first president?
Yes, Nkrumah. If you listen to Nkrumah, I mean, I say you, me, everyone. Nkrumah told us the independence of Ghana is meaningless unless it is linked to the independence of the rest of Africa. Quote number one. Quote number two. We as Ghanaians are prepared to surrender our sovereignty in part or in total in pursuit of African unity. Did we listen to those two phrases? Today it means that the prosperity of South Africa is meaningless unless that prosperity is linked to Malawi, to Sudan, to Ghana.
How does South Africa link its prosperity to Malawi?
By understanding that you can't be a member of the BRICS as little South Africa. You'll be meaningful in the BRICS if you go as SADC. You'll be meaningful in the BRICS if you go as...
What does SADC bring in to them? And the BRICS, by the way, is Brazil, Russia, India, China. And
those
South Africa. Now South Africa, those who are thought to be the new developed countries, just joining the developed
So what I'm explaining is,
What is Malawi bringing in? Why did South Africa think of Malawi? Why should Ghana think of Zimbabwe? What are you bringing?
Yeah, we scale. We're bringing markets. We're bringing 40% of our gold, which you talk about. Remember, numbers under globalization are what makes a difference. South Africa is about 50 million people, yeah? SADC will bring in 250 million people. COMESA will bring in 400 million people. The FTA, Free Trade Area, ESC, SADC, COMESA will bring in 600 million people. The African continent...
600 million poor people.
But still scale.
But poor.
Indians are poor too.
They can't buy bananas.
But what about the gold? What about our national?
The gold is controlled by a company called Anglo Gold.
We're going to shut them down.
Shut them down?
No, we're going to make sure they benefit Africans. But then let's make the point a bit broader.
That's a bigger negotiation.
Let's make the point bigger. So what I'm saying is, one of the major drivers of the Chinese miracle is their scale.
The Chinese miracle?
1.3 billion people. Can you imagine when you...
Yeah, they have skill, yes.
Yeah, if you produce
technical.
They could
but they don't have democracy.
Which is what you must understand as an African, that the slogan that says, seek first the kingdom of democracy and the rest will follow, is flawed. You need more...
That's dangerous.
That's very dangerous.
Your Excellency, that's dangerous.
You need more than democracy. You need an economic vision. You need an economic strategy.
Which one must come first?
Paro.
Can they exist together? Democracy and economic development? Can they?
They can.
Who did it?
Democracy and economic development?
Yes, who did
Americans
it before?
have done it.
America?
Yes, before they got progress.
Didn't they get progress before they got the democracy they have today?
No. What I'm saying is, you don't go for dogma. The Chinese have no democracy as explained by the West.
They have no human rights.
But they are a powerhouse economically.
Is that what we want?
Ask yourself. But what I'm saying is,
I don't want that.
Don't believe the hype that says there must be democracy before development. Singapore is not your democracy as defined by the Americans.
At all.
But they're Ebola, they're number 2 on that list.
But is that what we want?
Ask yourself. Then we go to Malaysia. Malaysia is not a democracy.
No.
What I'm saying is,
one man rules for 40 years.
What I'm saying
is that what we want?
We wanted the Africans to be sophisticated. Who told you America and Europe are your teachers? Why don't you teach yourself? Nkrumah taught the Europeans. The Europeans created the European Union after plagiarizing Nkrumah.
Absolutely, that's correct.
Right? And now what I'm saying is, there are no easy answers. Africans must look at Japan. Africans must look at Singapore, Malaysia, China, America, Europe, but more importantly, Africans must look at themselves and come up with our own economic models, our own systems, which are neither American
nor
Japanese.
Systems of democracy?
Of everything.
Our former president, Mr. Kufuor, when he was asked about the constitution that he operated for 2 terms, 8 years, asked what are some of the important things he would like to change, the first thing he said was the tenure of the president is too short, 4 years, 8 years maximum. He thought that you should have a minimum of 10 years, 5 year, 5 year. Then he said something else. He said there should be no vice president. Yeah, because he thought that office will not achieve its maximum. We haven't done anything with that, with what he said, after he said it 2 years ago. Are you asking for some major changes to the way in which we practice governance and democracy?
I think let's be creative. Let us learn from ourselves. I think